Immediately following Mendeecees' arrest in Mexico, Yandy Smith breaks down on live television. As a reality TV personality who is most known for her appearances on Love and Hip Hop, New York, Yandy Smith is well aware of the difficulties that arise while attempting to maintain a healthy balance between her professional and personal life. However, in a moment that left her admirers in a state of disbelief, Yandy broke down in tears live on social media after learning the sad news that her husband, Mendeecees Harris, had been arrested in Mexico. In the past, Mendeecees, who was a drug dealer in the past but is now an entrepreneur, has been involved in a decent amount of legal difficulty. There have been times when he has been the focus of attention from the general population. On the other hand, the events that transpired in Mexico this time were dissimilar. It was not only another legal matter that would be resolved gradually. In particular for those individuals whose histories were connected to the criminal world, it served as a jarring reminder of the unpredictability that is inherent in life. Yandy considered this to be more than just a headline in the newspaper or a rumor in the tabloids. Due to the fact that they were married to someone who had a criminal history, the reality of their situation continued to haunt them in the present. There was a moment of vulnerability during the live breakdown. On an otherwise typical day, Yandy made the decision to broadcast live on Instagram, which is a medium that she frequently uses to communicate with her followers. However, what began as a casual check-in in a short amount of time suddenly evolved into an emotional breakdown that attracted the attention of thousands of people. The tone of Yandy's voice changed as she proceeded to discuss her day and her ideas on a variety of topics. As she continued to talk about her husband and the uncertainty that surrounded his detention, she got increasingly upset. It appeared as though the weight of the situation was gradually settling on her shoulders. Yandy had always attempted to portray herself as a powerful and self-reliant woman who was successfully juggling the responsibilities of motherhood, business, and a rigorous career. She was a figure that never seemed to falter in the face of tragedy, and her fans were accustomed to seeing her as the rock of the family. However, the fragility that was present in her voice was audible during this live session. She started talking about how the arrest had affected her, how she was trying to be strong for their children, and how she was struggling with the fear of the unknown that she was experiencing. After speaking openly about the emotional toll that the arrest had taken on her, Yandy started to shed tears as she described the situation. She remarked, "You put in a lot of effort to safeguard your family and provide them with a better life, and then something like this occurs, and you are at a loss for what to do." As she continued, her voice broke as she explained how the unpredictability of Mendeecees' condition was taking its toll on her, not only as his wife, but also as the one who had been by his side for many years. She discussed the difficulties that they faced when they were in a relationship with someone whose history continued to have an effect on their future, and she explained how she was attempting to maintain her optimism in spite of the challenging circumstances. In the midst of her emotional breakdown, Yandy made it very evident that the arrest was not only associated with the legal concerns, but also with the emotional damage it had on her family. Her mental and emotional well-being was suffering as a result of the continual waiting, the lack of answers, and the toll it was having on her. She expressed her dissatisfaction with all of these things. It was during the live session that she openly revealed her anxieties, her uncertainties, and her tiredness from dealing with the ongoing turmoil that seemed to surround Mendeecees' history. The live session became an unfiltered window into her life. An overview of Mendeecees' troubled pasts and background. By examining Mendeecees' Harris history and the ways in which it influenced the life he created with Yandy, it is essential to have a comprehensive understanding of the full spectrum of Yandy's reaction. Prior to his ascent to stardom on Love and Hip Hop, Mendeecees was involved in the supply and distribution of illegal substances. Ultimately, his illicit activities resulted in his arrest in 2015, and he was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for cocaine trafficking. His sentence was handed down in 2015. Yandy became an important presence in his life when he was confined. She helped him retain a strong support system and continued to construct a life for themselves and their children. During the period when Mendeecees was incarcerated, Yandy was frequently the focus of public attention. Many people questioned her choice to support a man who had such a contentious history. The dedication that Yandy had for Mendeecees, however, was unwavering. Despite the fact that she was working on her own career in the entertainment world, she continued to pay him visits and keep their connection steady. Despite the fact that many fans appreciated her resiliency, many others questioned whether or not Mendeecees could completely escape the shadow of his past. Once serving a portion of his term, Mendeecees was eventually freed from prison once that portion had been served. He emerged as a different person, making a solemn promise to put his past in the past and concentrate on his family and his business endeavors. It appeared as though his connection with Yandy was a representation of redemption, a tale of love, loyalty, and other opportunities for second chances. However, as we have seen with a great number of people who have connections to the criminal world, the past is never fully gone, and it frequently resurfaces in the most unexpected ways. When Mendeecees was taken into custody in Mexico, this was the situation that made headlines. There is still a lack of clarity regarding the specifics of his arrest. However, it is hypothesized that it is connected to an ongoing investigation into his previous illegal activity. The burden of the entire world appeared to be resting once more on Yandy's shoulders, and she became increasingly anxious. Despite the fact that she had been by her husband's side through the most difficult of times, she felt disoriented by this new issue. The situation was not limited to Mendeecees. Rather, it concerned the entire family as well as the future that they had labored so diligently to create. How Yandy and her family have been affected by it. A sequence of emotional problems that Yandy had been going through over the past few years included the live breakdown, which was just one moment in the series. Yandy has frequently been put in the position of having to navigate the nuances of this reality while she is in the public glare. Being the wife of someone who has a criminal history is not an easy way to live. Her supporters have witnessed her ascent to stardom, successful management of her profession, and the establishment of a life with Mendeecees, all while she has been suffering with the consequences of his previous errors. Yandy remarked in the live stream that she was attempting to shield their children from the upheaval that had suddenly entered their lives. The mayhem had suddenly entered their lives. While she was dealing with the unpredictability of Mendeecees' legal predicament, she commented about how difficult it was to explain the situation to them, and how she was having a hard time maintaining a feeling of normalcy in her life. In her role as a mother, she was aware of the obligation she had to maintain order for her children, but she was finding that this was becoming increasingly challenging. Not only did Yandy and Mendeecees suffer a setback as a result of the arrest, but their entire family did as well. It jogged their recollections of the difficulties they had encountered during Mendeecees' incarceration, and it compelled them to face the fact that Mendeecees' history may always find a way to make its way back into their life. It seemed like the shadow of his previous life was never far behind, despite the fact that they were making every attempt to move forward and make a better life for themselves. Yandy's suffering stemmed not just from the unpredictability of the circumstance, but also from the sense that she was powerless to change it. She had put in a lot of effort to provide her family with a secure and loving atmosphere, but now she was faced with the risk of losing everything she had fought so hard to achieve for them. When she was confronted with the fact that sometimes, regardless of how hard you try, the past would always find a way to resurface, she was forced to come to terms with the reality. How the breakdown was caused by the role of social media. It is possible that Yandy's decision to break down on live social media was an unexpected action, yet it was a reflection of the way in which social media has become an essential component of people's lives. The advent of the digital age has made it possible for public figures and celebrities to communicate with their followers in real time, allowing them to share their most intimate moments with an audience that spans the entire world. It was a method for Yandy to process her feelings and show her fans that she was not scared to be vulnerable. She did this by going live on her YouTube channel. It was obvious that Yandy was looking for support, despite the fact that some people would have questioned the decision to share such a private event with the other people in the globe. She was not simply communicating with her followers, rather, she was attempting to acquire solace, affirmation, and comprehension from them. Her fans were able to see the unedited, raw side of her during the live breakdown, and many of them showed their compassion and support for what she was going through. It is essential to acknowledge that social media has evolved into a potent instrument for the purpose of providing mental health and emotional support, particularly for people who are in the public eye. Yandy was able to foster a sense of community among her followers by revealing the challenges she was facing. This enabled her to receive support from her supporters during this challenging period. In a world where people frequently conceal their suffering behind carefully crafted online personas, Yandy's live breakdown served as a reminder of the significance of authenticity and the courage that is required to be vulnerable. Moving on, the path to recovery and recuperation. Yandy continues to hope for the future, despite the mental upheaval that she is experiencing. Yandy is resolute in her determination to maintain her strength and move forward, despite the fact that the arrest has once again caused strife in the life of her family. Ever since she was a child, she has been a warrior, and this most recent setback is no exception. Yandy continued to sharing her journey with her supporters in the days that followed the live breakdown. In her posts, she provided updates on her emotional well-being, discussed the assistance she was receiving from her friends and family, and showed her appreciation for the love and encouragement she received from her fans. It was clear that Yandy possessed a great deal of courage and resilience as she negotiated this new obstacle. She refused to allow it to determine the future of either her or her family. Although Mendeecees' legal troubles may not be resolved, Yandy is resolute in her commitment to maintain her concentration on the things that are most important to her: her children, her work, and her family. Yandy's dedication to her family is unshakable, despite the fact that the uncertainty that surrounds his incarceration will certainly be a long and challenging path to walk. Despite the fact that the live breakdown was nothing more than a moment of raw emotion, it also demonstrated the power that comes from vulnerability, the strength that comes from community, and the resilience that is required to overcome the most difficult obstacles in life. At the end of the day, Yandy's narrative is one of tenacity, love, and the unshakable link that exists between a wife and her husband. Yandy is unwavering in her commitment to constructing a brighter future for her family, one day at a time, in spite of the challenges that continue to materialize in front of her.